Okay, so this next thing I'm doing pertains to something that I made in P5.js, which is a JavaScript framework for creative coding. So essentially, I made this Abacus simulator right here, and what I wanted to be able to do is add, subtract, multiply, and divide, but animate every single step in between. So what I have right now is it can add. Add doesn't work 100% correctly, but it works with most stuff that I give it. So if I were to add 123 plus 456, I hit enter, then it does 579, which is correct. So some of you may not know exactly how an abacus works. This is specifically a school abacus. There's other kinds that may or may not make sense. If you look at my main channel, one of my first videos actually is a tutorial of how to use an abacus, believe it or not. But basically, all these beads represent values. So, and all the rows represent place values. So, like this bottom row is a ones place, the one above that is a tens place, then the hundreds, thousands, 10,000, and so on. And the amount of beads that are on the right are the actual value in that place. So since there's 5 beads on the right in the hundreds place, that represents 500. Since there's 7 in the tenths place, that's a 7. Since there's 9 in the ones place, that's a 9. So 579. And when you add 123 plus 456, it basically does 1 here, 2, 3. Then it adds 4 more for the 400s. Then it adds 5 more for the tens place and 6 more for the ones place. So then you end up with 579. And yes, you can carry and stuff, but that's the whole point of this simulation. It does everything one step at a time so you can see what's actually going on. So the problem is I do actually have it capable of doing one step at a time. It doesn't just return the result of A and B as the arguments. It does actually animate things one step at a time. But the problem is because of how I have everything set up, it just does everything at once rather than animating one step at a time. I want to see if the chatbot can help me animate one step at a time. I've tried getting help on this and I didn't really get anything that I wanted regarding that. So essentially what this does is it just like looks at the digits and then adds using the exact rules that I shared with what the digits do. It pretty much does what you'd expect. I won't really go over that, but basically for however many digits we have, it'll do one line at a time. So let me clear the beads right now. So now everything is 0. So if I were to say like row index 0 equals 1, actually that's not what I wanted. I wanted the hundreds place, not the ones place. So row index 2 equals 1. So that's the first step in this problem. Then row index 1 is equal to 2. And then it does a 3 in the ones place. So I want it to animate one step at a time like that. Clearly it's able to do that. And I have the programming required to do that here. It's just that it does everything at once rather than animates it, even though I previously added some delays so it can animate it one step at a time. But what ends up happening instead is it just pauses the whole program and then does a final answer. So it's like it does a full calculation before it starts animating it. So this draw loop right here with P5 is how things actually animate. Now I have this show function which has more stuff pertaining to the animation itself. So basically, when I add a delay in the places that I want to animate, I've done like a set timeout and those things, but it just adds a delay. And then once all those delays happen, then it finally animates the final answer. It doesn't do any of the steps, it just skips right to the final answer. this should be animating one at a time, and then so should this. And I think there was something else that was supposed to animate too. My recursive carry function right here, I think it has some animation steps within there as well. Yeah, all this stuff is supposed to animate here too. So if I add delays, it doesn't actually animate. It just pauses the whole program and then animates everything at once rather than each individual step. So I think my answer to this is to asynchronously pause stuff. So I want to asynchronously add delays in here, but I want that to completely leave this draw loop alone. This should be able to keep running 60 times a second, while this asynchronously has its own pause and then runs this type of command one at a time. I did not get the help I needed, but I'm sure Daniel Shipman from the coding train would have an answer, if anybody does, of how to basically add delays while keeping the draw loop running at the same time. So I'm going to see if I can have the chatbot do that sort of thing for me. So that's probably going to take a fair bit of explanation, but let me see if I can add an explanation now. It is familiar with P5.js, by the way. I checked a while ago. Okay, so I just explained stuff to the best of my ability. It might not even make sense to it, but let's see if it can handle that. So set timeout, I've kind of tried this already, but I kind of don't want to mess around with the draw loop, but I want to just keep it going if possible. Frame count would be an interesting approach, I guess, but I don't really want to do things that way. Okay, I just rephrased my question so I could leave the draw loop alone. So JavaScript promises might be the answer to it. Kind of tempted to just give it the entire code. I'm probably just going to give it the code. I don't know how to even begin to interpret this into what I'm actually doing. I'm going to give it the entire code base and see if it can handle this. Okay, so now I'm going to see if I can give it the entire code base. So I'm explaining stuff that's relevant with the code base. So I'm like, the draw loop and show function are where the animation happened. The add and carry function are where the delays need to happen while the animation still continues to run. Now I'm going to paste the entire code base if I can even do that, and see if it can rewrite the add and carry function so it does the asynchronous stuff. Because if it can do that, I will be absolute. Oh, that's crazy how quickly it starts typing. That would be absolutely insane if it actually ended up working. I don't see anything pertaining to promises now. It doesn't look like the add function has any promise related stuff. Oh, it looks like it'll revise it so that it does have it. Perfect. So carry, I'm gonna assume it does. I'm gonna make a backup of this before I make any modifications to it, even though I have this on GitHub probably. Okay, so I copied the new carry function, and now it should have the corresponding add function, which I can't believe it actually managed to overlook that particular thing. Doesn't seem like some place where it would have happened. So now hopefully, wouldn't that be epic if this ended up working the way I hope it does? That would be absolutely insane. So it works. That would be absolutely insane if it ended up working the way I hope it does. Let's add 123 and 456. Will it do one step at a time? If so, oh, that's gonna make my day, even though the day hasn't officially started yet. It kind of does stuff, but not entirely. It animates, but it didn't do it all correctly. So I think what I might want to do is, so right there, it was supposed to animate, but I can probably have it modify that particular line. Okay, so now I'm asking, can it modify the function so the 2-second delay after that line? Although I just realized we probably just have to add in a wait right here. Honestly, that's probably all we have to do. Yep, pretty much what it did right there. I don't understand how this all works exactly. I understand that this is asynchronous, meaning this function can sort of run independently of the draw loop, kinda to some extent. And then the await basically makes an asynchronous function synchronous within itself, I think. So let's see how this works now if I add it this way. The other thing I also wanted to eventually do is to be able to convert between different base systems. So if you have like a decimal number and you want to be able to convert it to hexadecimal, that's something that you can do on the Abacus. I've done it quite a bit, and it would be so cool to animate that process because it's way more complex than addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So that would be pretty sweet if that could be done. But for now I have add. That'll come someday. Why don't we see if it'll animate properly now? Ooh, that's the wrong order. That's probably my own fault though. So right there, what happened? This is supposed to animate too. Didn't it used to animate right there prior to that? That doesn't matter because I think that's all it'll take. So I actually did that in the wrong order. It's supposed to be this first, then that. But the fact that this works is really exciting. Okay, now what's up with that? So that is the actual steps that's supposed to animate, which is quite exciting. So it's actually quite simple. I just have to await a new promise in this format. I think I've tried this in the past and I just could not get it to work for whatever reason. I probably didn't even know what approach I was supposed to do. But my idea of using async await was the solution, but I didn't know exactly how I wanted to do that. So I think what I probably need to do is a length minus I. I haven't worked on this program in ages, and the fact that I thought of that so quickly is insane. Ooh. That's obviously not quite right, but minus I minus 1 maybe. And it's actually setting the wrong values. So async minus a length minus I minus 1, and then maybe this is supposed to become I. Let's see if that's right. So far, so good. This is exciting. This made my day, even though it hasn't officially started yet. So those are the steps required to do 123 plus 456. Now I kind of want to do something with the carry. So if you watch that tutorial, I added a 5-digit number with another 5-digit number. I added those two numbers together. Let's see if it ends up working. That is the correct first steps. So 23,914 plus 76,000. The carry is probably where it's going to glitch out. Okay, yep, that glitched out. That's not correct. Actually, it is correct, but it did it in the wrong order. And oh my god, that is the correct answer, by the way. It technically did all those steps correct, but it did it in a different order. Oh my god, this is intense euphoria released from seeing this happen. So some of the steps were slightly wrong, but it ended up working out in the end. So that's something I'm gonna have to look at later. But the fact that it animates one step at a time now is really exciting. When it animates one step at a time with converting between base systems, oh my gosh, that'll be like a 5 to 10 minute animation right there. It'll take like 5 to 10 minutes to calculate that out, depending on how large the number is, because stuff has to happen up here as well as down here. There's actually multiple passes worth of stuff that ends up happening. I may make a video someday showing how to convert between base systems on the Abacus. If you want that, definitely let me know in the comments section. That'll be on my main channel and not this one, by the way. That is insane. Oh my gosh. So basically, where I would normally do a delay, I could just do it right here. And then however long I need. This is definitely a better approach than anything it was giving before, wouldn't you agree? Because I can leave all this jumbled mess alone. I don't want to touch that again if possible, because I have all the logic worked out. Holy balls, that is insane. I knew that chatbot would be able to help give me an answer to that particular problem. It's more complex than some of the other stuff, and yet it was able to help me with this. I've noticed that it tends to do better with web development related stuff, it seems like, compared to other stuff. But yeah, I'm just gonna say how impressed I am with its answer. I'm just saying how amazed I am and what I was able to do. And then yes, it's it's always satisfying to see a project come to fruition and work as intended. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to ask. That is absolutely insane.